Matopu.
Toprish Peites.
Frida Kareppa. Okay. Really?
Let's start with the Tillin. It's the Tillin. It's Daka. Maybe we should show the Floyd's Gedolis in Eretz Israel. Take it again, Mamish. It's Zachin Gomer for Eden. And should be war, should end, should be peace. Take it again, Mamish. I'm not saying Mizmel David. Dan Chalino B'Yem Tzara Yisageb Choshen Elhei Yaakov Yishlach Ezer Chol Kodesh U'Mitzion Yisadeka Yizker Kol Chesecha Ve'eloscha Yidashna Selam Yiten Lechocha Levecha V'Cholatzoscha Yinavet Ranra B'Shuasecha V'Shem Eloheinu Nidgo Imale Adonai Kol Mishalesecha Ata Yedaiti Keshia Adonai Mashiach Yanehu Mishmei Kodshe Beguris Yeshayimine Eila Berechev Veila Basusim Anachnu B'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Nazkim Eima Korov Nefolu V'Anachnu Kamen V'Naseidu Adonai Yeshia Melech Yaneinu V'Yem Kareinu. This mimer said by the previous Rebbe. The year was Toprish Peites, which is 1929. This was the time where communism in Russia was full force. Eden were being persecuted in the worst possible way. The Frida Rebbe himself, there was an attempt to Rahman al-Islam to eliminate him. He was arrested, miraculously freed from jail, Mid-Beis Tammuz. So this is the second year after he was released from jail. And of course, the Maimon talks about Nisayan, how to deal with Nisayan. Those days, that was the Nisayan, even being persecuted for learning Torah, for teaching children, for observing mitzvahs. And this is a continuation of our Maimon. So the Maimon begins with the words, Matehu Elohecha Yaakov Mishkasecha Yisrael. These words, we know them from davening, but in essence, they're from a pasuk in Chumash. This is on page 25 in the booklet. Pasuk in Chumash is in Parshas Balak, chapter Chav Daled, Kapitel Chav Daled, Pasuk Hey. And these are words that were actually pronounced by a very big Russian, one of the worst anti-Semites that lived. His name was Bilam, and he opened his mouth to do what he can do with words, because he saw that with physical, material power, they couldn't get anywhere. The Jews are too strong for that. So he decided to use the Jews' method. Their method is davening and prayer. So he's going to use spiritual powers. Of course, the Eibishter transformed everything to good. Whatever came out of his mouth was positive. One of the words that came out of his mouth was these words, Matevi Alecha Yaakov, Mishnusecha Yisrael. What do these words mean? There's a lot of mefarshim on these words. Obviously, we say this every morning when we start davening. It's the first thing we start with. So it must be something really fundamental and fundamentally related to davening. So now we're going to explain what it says on this pasuk. Omer Rabbi Zal, our sages said, from the bracha that this Rasha gave, you can see what he wanted to do. In other words, if Hashem turned around his brachas, rather his curses to turn into brachas, so it means that every bracha is the flip side of what he wanted to do. It's not just an ordinary bracha. It's exactly what he wanted to do, but turned around. So when we look at what he did say, we can learn from that what he wanted to say in the negative. He wanted to say, Shlayilem Bateknesis and Madrashas, that all the yeshivas and all the shuls, any establishment that's like for the purpose of davening and learning, should be eliminated. So he said instead, Matevu Elecha Yaakov, which is how beautiful are your tents. So when he says your tents, what is he referring to? The tent of Torah and the tent of prayer. So Bate Knesiyas, the word Bate Knesiyas or Beis HaKnesses, it means a house of prayer. Bate Medrashas, like the word Medrasha, is a place of studying. Then Bikish Lema, then he wanted to say another thing. He wanted to curse in another way. Shleitisha Shechina Aleim, that Hashem's presence should not dwell amongst the Yidden. Instead, what came out of his mouth, Mishkinisecha Yisrael, that Hashem should be dwelling amongst the Yidden. So based on this, Oyhalim, that when it says tents, Koi al Oli Teiru Tefillah, that means the word tents is referring to not an ordinary tent, but the tent of Torah and tent of Tefillah. The simple meaning is referring to the ordinary tents. If you want to take a look once more on page 25, which is the Chumash, let's look what Rashi says, which is the simple meaning. Rashi says, this is on the bottom where it says number 5, how good are your tents? Because he saw that their entrances were not facing each other. This is the famous Rashi, which of course comes from the Gemara, that says that the Yidden set up their tents in a way that their openings didn't face each other, so people would be able to have their privacy. So this is one of the sources. He saw the beauty, and he expressed the beauty of tznius. But then the word tent means ordinary tent, the tents of the people. The deeper meaning, according to the Medrash, is referring to tents of Torah and tents of Tefillah. Kamesha Kosev, as there's also another pasuk where it says, "V'Yaakov ish tom." Yaakov was ish tom, meaning a sincere person. And what was his occupation? Yeshiv Eilim. He sat in the tents. And over there, the Gemara says, what does it mean in the tents? In the tents of Torah and the tents of Tefillah. There's a very big school in the community here, the biggest actually, and it's called Oli Torah, the tents of Torah. That's where the term comes from here, that the word tent could be either the tents of prayer or the tents of Torah. So now he's going to raise a question. we need to understand. Why does he separate shuls and yeshivas, and the dwelling of the Shechina, two things? In other words, from the fact that he says that these words in the pasuk mean he wanted to eliminate the yeshivas and the shuls. The other one is that he wanted to eliminate Hashem's presence shouldn't be there amongst the Yidden. It's as if these are two separate things. Miyaches, but the knesses and medrashim liyakev. Another thing, when it comes to shuls and yeshivas that he associates with the name Yaakov, Matoivu Oyelecha Yaakov, how beautiful are your tents, Yaakov. So Yidden are being called Yaakov. The second half, when he talks about the dwelling of the Shechina, then he uses the name Yisrael. So he's really making a pretty strong line between the two things. Like one thing is Torah and Tefillah. There's another thing, the dwelling of the Shechina. Isn't it all one? In other words, what's the essence of a shul? And what's the essence of a place like a yeshiva where they study Torah? The essence of it is, this is a place where the Shechina dwells. The Be'emes Hem Inyan Echad, the Bate Knesiyas, a shul, Hem Migdash Ma'at. The Gemara says it's a miniature Beis HaMikdash. Every shul is a miniature Beis HaMikdash. Also, the Gemara says, "Akol be'asar shchinta sharia." Wherever there's a minyan, wherever there are 10 men gathered together, the Shechina dwells there. So, basically, a shul is a place where the Shechina dwells. That's what it's all about. Same as with the yeshiva, Bati Medrash, which is all the Torah, the tents of Torah, Shechina Shriyasham. In reference to Torah, it's also the same thing. What is the mile of learning Torah? It's not just chachma, not just wisdom. Torah is all about Hashem's wisdom, and when you learn Torah, you're drawing godliness upon yourself. In fact, here too, we find the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. Even though it doesn't bring it, but it's a famous Mishnah in Pirkei Avos where it says that if 10 people learn Torah, the Shekhinah is there. If 5 people learn Torah, the Shekhinah is there. It goes down the line, and for each number it brings another pasuk, and then at the end it says even if one person learns Torah, the Shekhinah is there, and brings a pasuk that even if one single person is studying Torah, the Shekhinah dwells there. So therefore, sorry, just 1 second. Hello? Hello? Yeah. I wanted to teach one class and then leave. You can call it. You can call the house. Yeah, you can call the house. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we're back with the original question. If Torah is where Hashem dwells, Tefillah is where Hashem dwells. So why is he making two separate things? In order to understand all this, first let's preface this by the following pasuk. It says, Nasata Yurecha Neis, this Neises, Pnei Keshet Sela. This is a pasuk in Tillim. So this must be on page 26. No, it's actually page 28. I guess page 26 and 27 are the other psukim that I brought. That's the pasuk where it says about Yaakov, that Esav was a man of the field, and Yaakov was a man of the tent. But then Rashi says the tent means the tent of Torah. So look at page 28. That's the pasuk Tillim is talking about. It's Kapitel Samach. And, the Maimer was said on Yud Beis Tammuz, and this Kapitel is from Yud Aleph. And here are the words, Nesata Yurecha Neis, Nesneis Mepnei Keshet Sela. Nesata means you give. Yurecha to those who fear you. Nes means a banner, something very high, a banner to be raised high, for the sake of truth forever. This is the simple meaning of the words. And that was bringing three other ways of understanding the pasuk. Pirush Rashi says that the word nes is actually referring to nisyonis, to tests. Nisyonis shel tzaris harba, that the Eibishter will bring tests, a lot of tzaris, a lot of distress, but the purpose is lisnoises, to test us. Im yamdu b'yirasecha, if we'll stand up and we will show our unconditional commitment to fear of Hashem, that we don't lose our faith and fear of Hashem because of the tests. That's Rashi's interpretation. So basically, according to this interpretation, the word nes and this nesis is all about testing. The Pirush nes meloshen nesoyin. So the word nes is now, according to this, nesoyin. Then comes the second Pirush, Mitzudas David. One of the most famous Pirushim on Tillim that gives the simple pshat is a commentary called Mitzudas David. And he says the word nes is meloshen hagbol v'haroma. It means something which is raised high. K'neis hagavaya, like a banner, which is raised very high. Now let's look at the pasuk according to this interpretation. Nasata lirecha neis lisneses, which means, this is what he says, me'ata, now, titen lirecha harama, give those that fear you, raise them high, the Yisraelim, next page, ba'olam, raise them high, they should be exalted in this world. So he interprets it as not about a test, it just means to raise them high. Yeah.
I didn't like the goy say all of this sentence.
What?
The goy say all of, like the Russian goy say all of this sentence.
Rashi.
The goy that you said in the first that said the child. Like who said all of this sentence?
David HaMelech. Until.
No, but like all of them.
That's Bilam.
Why you bring all of those sentences? Like
which one? Matoivu?
No, all of the sentences that were in the man.
That's how a mimer goes. The mimer brings a pasuk, asks a question. In order to explain the question, it explains a subject and goes back to answer the question. The signon in a mimer is very different than all other commentary. Other commentary asks a question, the next line, they give an answer. Chassidus and a mimer is not like that. In a mimer, there's a question. Then they start explaining some concept, and then 4 pages later, they go back to answer the question. Because basically, a mimer is not an answer to a question. Every mimer is a new perspective on a whole subject. Once you have a new perspective on the whole subject, you can go back and you'll understand and you know the answer to the question. So here too, in order to answer this question, he's going to explain the whole idea of a nesoyin. After he explains what a nesoyin is all about, 4 pages later, he'll go back to the pasuk and answer the questions about the tenets of Torah and the Shekhinah and everything else. Yeah.
Can you just go through again what Rashi says about the pasuk and then?
Rashi says that the pasuk is talking about testing. Hashem tests us. And so the word nes comes from the word testing. Hashem gives us a lot of tests. And to see if we're going to stand strong in our fear of Hashem. We're not going to lose it. And so David said that the word nes comes from the words raising something high. That Hashem exalts us, he raises us high like a banner in the face of all the nations of the world. 2 separate interpretations.
So the question was why the goy say matovu, like why the goy say abracha?
No, the question is why he spoke this language. But the Knesset Medrash is one thing. Why the Medrash says that Beis Medrash is one thing and Shras HaShechina is another thing. Isn't it one and the same? Again, let's go back for a second. But what came out of the mouth of Bilam was Mateva Alecha Yaakov Mishkisecha Yisrael. That's what he said. So the Medrash says, the reason why he says two things, Alecha Yaakov Mishkisecha Yisrael, one is referring to Bate Knessis or Bate Medrashis, and one is referring to Hashrat Hashchina. So the question of the Maimer is, isn't it one? Why is it two separate things? Now you take that question, put it on the shelf. Now we're going to discuss the subject of Nes, Nisayan. And after we discuss the subject of Nisayan, we'll go back to the Pasuk and we'll talk about it again.
Sorry, I just
Yeah. Slowly, we'll get there. The Shnei HaPerushim, the two Perushim which we just said, they come from the Medrash. Shemafarish, Nes, Nesis. In the Medrash it says, these two words, Nes, his Nesis means Nisayan, Acher Nisayan, which means not just a test, but one test after another test after another test. And then the Medrash says in one breath, Gidulin, Acher Gidulin. The purpose is to raise us higher and higher and higher. So basically, in the pasuk it says the word nes twice. Nes, nesis. So it means both things. The tests come one after the other, and the result of the test, that we're being raised to a higher plane in the entire world, like a banner, is also one after the other. One sort of upgrade after another upgrade. But then there's a third pirush. A pirush ashlishi b'neis huloshen neflois. The third way of explaining it from the nes means a miracle. A miracle is something which is high above nature. In other words, the fact that nes means a miracle and nes means a banner which is very high, it's associated because a miracle is also high. It's above nature. It stands out. Now we look at the pasuk this way. Nasata l'recha nes, which means Hashem gives us nesyonis, tests, tzaras harba, many tzaras, but the purpose is b'chdei l'sneises, which means l'gadlam ba'olam, to raise us, that we should be high. Kenes shel svina, just like the nes in a boat, which is very high and you could see it from the distance. In a boat, it's not called a banner. What is it called in a boat? What?
Mast?
A mat. No, it's not just a
Sail?
flag.
The
No.
sail, the mast.
What?
The mast.
That's what you said, yeah. That's very high, and you could see it from the distance because it's so high. The gam b'mayim rabba means even when there's many waters. Mei hayam, the waters of the ocean. Hamat al-charada ala yeshim besfinas, waters that put fear and dread into the hearts of the people that are on the boats. But nevertheless, even though that's the general image and the general picture, but Hanesh Shel Asfina, the mast of the boat, Yemed, it stands high, b'bitochen, with confidence, b'chayzik, shemoyde ala reimuz b'hagbo. In other words, this mast is something which is way above the waters. It sort of represents like we're above this and we're not going to be worried and scared of these great waters. Kach yirei havaya, in the same way, those that fear Hashem, shem yirei echa, they are those that fear you. Oindem chazak ba'aveda, some they also stand strong in their aveda. B'teira u'mitzvahs, in the aveda of teira mitzvahs. Because they're a great bitachon, which is bitachon in kayach shalamayla mateva. They're a great trust in Hashem that He's above nature. As it says, by Yikra Shmei Havaya Nisi, and they called him Havaya Nisi, who Nes Shalonu. He's our Nes. So basically, here we're putting all the three. So we see three different interpretations to the word Nes. One means tests. One means raise high, and a third one means miracles, and they're all three interconnected. That we stand by the tests, and why do we stand by the tests? Because we have absolute confidence in Hashem that's above nature, And through this, we are raised, and the purpose of the test is to raise us to a higher level. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay. Bira Inyan to explain this in exhibit says, here's the passage that we've been learning about. Hashem tests you to know. We already learned that it doesn't mean the Eibishter makes the test for him to know, but Ladas means that they had Nisyonis through the tests, boyin lepchinas das. We are able to achieve a higher level of serving Hashem. And what is that higher level? Das, that we have knowledge in Hashem in a way which is das. I know by standing strong and being able to overcome all those things that block me and prevent me from serving Hashem, the Torah Tefillah, through Torah davening, the Kima mitzvahs. Through this, we reach the level of das. And explains this in more detail. What does it mean, das is havaya? Not just das, but to know havaya. The pasuk doesn't just say ladas; it says ladas is havaya, which means it could be das in Shem Elokim and das in Shem Havaya. What is the difference between Shem Elokim and Shem Havaya? So it says Shem Elokim is b'gematria teva. The gematria of the word Elokim is 86. And the gematria of the word hateva, which means the laws of nature, is also 86. Which means this is the name of Hashem that relates to, and from this and through this name, all the inyanim in nature come about. Hateva, based on nature, man who beseder the over. One of the limitations of nature is, in general, nature is limited by time and space. Time means this past, this present, and this future. Hoya, hoive, v'hiya. So therefore, there's a limitation. But through nisyonis, through tests, magi and the dasas havaya, we're able to reach something higher, that we have das and havaya. And what's havaya? So in the Shulchan Aruch, actually, it says that havaya, when you say the Hashem's name spelled Yud Kei Vav Kei, what should you be thinking? You should be thinking Haya, Hayve, V'Hiya Ke'echad. That Hashem is one, past, present, and future. It's all one by Him. Shulamayla Mahateva. So by Hashem, there's no difference between past and present and future. It's all one. And in Tzad Alakim, there is a limitation. Past is past, present is gone, it's over, you can't do anything with it. And present is present. The future, you have no idea what's going on. And that's Shem Elokim, that they have that limitation. You do so basically, the Das Zavaya means that you reach a level, not only that you recognize Hashem as Hashem creates the world and all the laws of nature, but Hashem as He stands above nature. not limited by the laws of nature. So first of all, in general, it's hard to understand that because we're in the box of nature, so we can't understand what above nature would mean. But to say that not only you know it and you understand it, but your knowledge and understanding is like ladas, which means that just like we see nature, I don't need Amuna to recognize that there's an order of nature, that past is past, and present is present, and future is future. And the same way, this person reaches this level, we have Havaya, which is above nature. If you do it, it's also known. You see, all these things we're saying here, we just learned in the Mimer. Shanisoyan, what is an Asoyan? Shanita Tzalaki, who mustav v'nelam b'yesa. That the godly spark in a test is very, very hidden, because the test is the lowest thing. It, like we said, it opposes godliness in an aggressive way. And there's the famous principle that those sparks of godliness that fell very low, their roots and their source is very high. Like you have a wall of avanim, of stones, rocks. You know, when the wall collapses and falls down, those stones or those rocks that are on the top of the wall, they fall far away from the wall, much further. So that means that those rocks, which are all the way on the bottom, in fact, the lower it is, it hardly goes anywhere. When the wall collapses, it stays almost where it is. It moves a few inches. But the ones that are on top, they fall further away. So now he's going to explain what is this mashal of the Avonim. We know that whenever there's a mashal of Chassidus, it's not just a general idea, but every detail is very specific and very precise. So he's going to explain what is Avonim. Words are called Avonim. What does that mean? We know that generally speaking, the world is divided into 4 categories, right? Medaber, which is the human kingdom. Then there is Chai, the animal kingdom. Then there is Tzomeach, the plant kingdom. And then there's Daimon, which is inanimate. In other words, the difference is things that are inanimate, like a rock or earth, this has no, you see no life there. You just see a physical object. There's no life. Plants is also a physical object, but you see growth, you see some life. Animals, you see much more, much greater quality of life in animals. And in humans, you see the greatest quality of life. But the lowest is Oisius, is a rock, not a rock. It's anything that's daimim, anything that's inanimate, which one example of that is a rock. So too, in an internal level experience of a person, there's intellect, there's emotion, and in the intellect we know there's chokhmah, there's bina, there's das. In the emotion, there's love, there's fear, there's compassion, all different feelings. So some of these things that we experience are compared more to, they correspond to the level of medaber. Some things correspond to the level of life that we find in animals. Some things compared to the level of life that we find in plants. And words, that compares to daimim, to things that are absolutely inanimate. Because words have no life to it at all. When I speak, the life is the content of the words. If a person speaks words of wisdom, the wisdom is what has life. The words themselves are, in a sense, just they're technical. In fact, if somebody would say words and not understand anything of what they're saying, then words are nothing. I'm not talking about davening, because these words were composed by Nevi'im, so they have a certain power to it. But in general, if somebody is just babbling, saying words, there's no logic to their words, there's no intellect, there's no emotion, it's just words coming out of their mouth. It's meaningless. It's nothing. It has no life to it. So even when I do speak, and I speak words of seichel, words of Torah, words of emotion, is the emotion that has the life to it, but the words themselves are daimim, they have no life to them. And therefore, they're compared to avonim, to rocks, something that has no life to it. So it says in Sefer Yetzirah, shtei avonim, beina shtei batim, with two rocks or two stones, you can build two houses. What does that mean? So basically, speaking in a metaphoric language, when he says the word, if a stone is a letter, a house is a word. In other words, if you have a word, like the word shulchan, which means a table, so it's made up of a few letters, shin, lamed, ches, nun. So you have 4 letters, and the 4 letters constitute a word. That means that the stones together constitute a word. What he's saying is, if you have 2 stones, meaning 2 letters, you can make 2 words. For example, I'll soon give the examples in the mimer. Of and ba. You have an aleph and a beis. Aleph beis is a word. It means father, av. Beis aleph is also a word. It means to come. But the truth is, you can't make any more words out of it. Only 2 words. What happens when you have 3 letters?
You can make 3.
No.
Even more.
How many?
9.
No. You didn't learn this in math? When you have 3 letters, you can do 6 words. It goes like this. 2 letters is 2 words. If you have a 3rd letter, then you do 3 times 2 is 6. What if you have 4 letters? What I mean by words, by the way, it doesn't mean English, Hebrew. It means combinations to constitute something which would be considered a word. So basically, if you have 4 letters, you do the same thing. 4 times 6 is 24. So if you have 4 letters, you can make 24 combinations. 5 letters, 5 times 24. How much is that?
120.
5 times 20 is 100. 5 times 4, 120. And if there's 6 letters, it's 6 times 120. It keeps going on and on and on.
She knows from the answer, so we're just.
Yeah, because she's sitting next to you. Okay.
Right.
Wow. If you would give the answer, the whole building would explode. Yeah. So again, shtei avonim, 2 words, beina shtei batim. You can make 2 letters, you can make 2 words, which means kshem shabayis nivnem avonim, just like a house is built with stones, ukafi avonim, based on how many stones, visidram, and based on how you organize the stones and what order you put them, kein yeh goydel habayis, that's how big the house will be, ba'arkai rachbay v'gavayo, in terms of its length, its width, and its height. So it means if I have a big mansion or a small little house or a medium-sized house, they're all the same houses. They're all made of a stone. The difference is this has 1,000 stones. This has 5,000 stones. This has 20 stones. This house, the stones are organized in this order. This house, they're organized in a different order. And that's why each house looks different than the other in the length, in the width, and in the height. So basically, it's the stones that put together a word. The same, stones put together a house. That's the mashal. The same is with words. Based on how many letters. Sidron, and based on the order, which means how you combine the letters, there'll be a whole different meaning to the word. So that means that if I put together words one way, then this word will accommodate one meaning. If I take the same letters and I reorganize them a different way, these letters will now accommodate a different meaning. Kamei Aleph and Beis, Shem Beis Eisis. Ubein Shtei Batim, with these 2 letters you can build 2 houses, which means 2 tzirufim. In the language of Chassidus or Kabbalah, it would be called tzirufim, combinations. So basically, if you put it to a Aleph Beis, it means a father. Because you arrange it Beis Aleph, it means a different word completely. But and the same is with all the letters. You do the Kabbalah Rebbe, Mepi Rebbe, Memarina Baal Shem to this known tradition that was passed down from one Rebbe to his father and the previous Rebbe, all the way back to the Baal Shem Tov. The Betzira was no, I skipped a line. Sorry. Shloisha is when there are three letters. Bonus shisha batim. So with three letters, you can make 6 houses. Like we said before, 3 times 2 is 6. Is hey tzadik reish. Take for example the 3 letters of the hey, the tzadik, and the reish. Sheshli shisha tzirufim. You can do it 6 ways. You do a Kabbalah, and it's known that there's a Kabbalah from one Rebbe to the Rebbe, all the way back to Baal Shem Tov, that in these 6, Yesh Bei Gimel Ikrim, there are 3 combinations which would be the primary combinations, and there are 3 combinations which would be the branches, the extension. What are the primary? One is Hatzor, one is Rotza, and one is Tzoyhar. I guess we'll continue tomorrow, Mirz Hashem. Thank God we finished with the word Tzoyhar, because Tzoyhar means light. In fact, not only does it mean light, it means a very bright light. That's why the afternoon in Hebrew is called Tzaharayim, when the sun shines the brightest. And he's going to explain how it's related to the other ones in the language. Okay.
Thank you. I don't know who's there. Hannah. Hi, Hannah. Hi, Rachel. Yeah. Everybody.
Yeah, I don't like being there.